Hello everyone, I'm Carthu, and today we're trying something a bit different in terms of Pokemon Teams videos. You see, I will be discussing the entirety of UA's Class 1A, and assigning each of them one Pokemon that suits them perfectly. There will be a little leeway with how many Pokemon certain characters get, based on how many quirks they have, i.e. Todoroki, but with all that said, let's get into it. Since we just made a full team for Midoriya as an individual, I wanted to give him a different Pokemon that more so reflected him in relation to his other classmates. Obviously, Gallade is aesthetically similar to Deku in terms of colors. Green, white, and red are just perfect for his hero costume. Then, you have the Psychic typing to represent his intelligence, and the Fighting type to represent One for All. There are other reasons outside the Pokedex for picking this Pokemon, but those will be covered later on in this list. Going into the Pokedex though, we see that Gallade does protect others by fighting fiercely, but that's pretty basic in my opinion. Instead, we'll use this entry from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which says, because it can sense what its foe is thinking, its attacks burst out first, fast, and fierce. This is very similar to the analytical fighting style of Midoriya, who tries to outthink his opponents and catch them out based on their fighting style's weakness. He specifically has done this against our next student. Bakugo is our shonen rival. Someone who's constantly up against Midoriya, the person he's looked down on for many years due to his lack of quirk and incessant desire to help regardless of that fact. The heightening of Bakugo's ego from a young age has caused him not only to become overconfident, but also extremely aggressive to those around him. A superiority complex that manifests itself in anger towards those that don't see him as superior. This is where Typhlosion comes in. The fire typing clearly works best to tie into the explosion quirk, and Typhlosion being the volcano Pokemon just ties in even more with the explosive nature of volcanic eruptions. When we go to Typhlosion's Pokedex entries, we have tons that talk about Typhlosion's rage, but even more so than that, we have this one in Pokemon Silver specifically, which says, it has a secret, devastating move. It rubs its blazing fur together to cause huge explosions. Do I really need to explain this pick any more than that? Todoroki is our next Class 1A student, and as I said in the intro, we'll be giving him two Pokemon to cover his two quirks. In this case, the most obvious choice was the two versions of the same Pokemon, Ninetales. Since there is an Ice and Fire type version, this Pokemon just makes sense for the hybrid Todoroki. The Pokedex isn't too important here, as using the typing was the more interesting aspect, but for Alolan Ninetales at least, we have this Pokedex entry from Pokemon Moon that says, possessing a calm demeanor, this Pokemon was revered as a deity incarnate before it was identified as a regional variant of Ninetales. Todoroki's abilities are so great that he was revered by UA to the point of getting in without having to take the entrance exam. Even more, the calm demeanor is the exact attitude Todoroki generally has, unless in very specific situations. So, this is where the Gallade choice makes even more sense. The destined pairing of Uraraka and Midoriya goes beautifully well with the ideal pairing of Gardevoir and Gallade. Beyond that though, the Psychic typing is perfect for Uraraka's ability to levitate things, and the Fairy type works well with her cute and bubbly personality. Even deeper than the general Psychic typing, Gardevoir has a further connection to the power of gravity manipulation. Gardevoir's Emerald Pokedex entry says it apparently does not feel the pull of gravity because it supports itself with psychic power. It will give its life to protect its trainer. Obviously, Uraraka's power allows her to negate the effects of gravity as well, and her new resolve as a hero is not only to make money to support her family, but also to save others. To be a true hero, just like Gardevoir, who risks its life for the safety of its trainer. It may seem weird to not have a steel type with Ida, considering his hero costume is a suit of armor actually. However, steel types are extremely slow 9 times out of 10, and the one aesthetically similar Pokemon, Bisharp, despite looking fast, is actually fairly slow, with only a base 70 speed stat. So I went with the Pokemon that famously moves at the speed of lightning, Zeraora. That's not just conjecture either. Zeraora's Ultra Moon Pokedex entry says it approaches its enemies at the speed of lightning, then tears them limb from limb with its sharp claws. This Pokemon being famous for its speed makes it the perfect fit for Ida. Momo is known for being the most intelligent person in Class 1A. This is why Alakazam is perfect for Momo, as Alakazam is also known for being extremely intelligent and having an extremely high IQ, as stated in its Pokemon Crystal Pokedex entry, which says, it has an IQ of 5,000. It calculates many things in order to gain the edge in every battle. However, intelligence isn't the only reason I picked Alakazam. You see, Momo's quirk allows her to create objects out of the fat stored in her body. Alakazam can similarly manifest objects using its psychic powers, as stated in its Pokemon Platinum Pokedex entry, which says, the spoons clutched in its hands are said to have been created by its psychic powers. This, obviously, is the best Pokemon to represent Momo. Agron is an extremely defensive Pokemon, having one of the highest defense stats in the game, and when it Mega Evolves, it is tied for the highest defense stat of all Pokemon. This obviously works perfectly with Kirishima's Hardening Quirk. I can already see some of you saying that the Hardening Quirk is more like the Rock typing, and the Steel Quirk is more well suited for, well, the Steel typing. However, you'd have to be ignoring the fact that Agron has 2 types, Steel and Rock, making it potentially the perfect Pokemon to cover both the Hardening Quirk and the Steel Quirk. Now, Kecleon should have been an obvious pick for Toru. However, I think it far better suits Tsuyu. You see, despite Kecleon being a chameleon and not a frog, it still has far more similar to Tsuyu than any other Pokemon. Let me explain. Tsuyu has a frog-like tongue that she uses to attack her foes and has been working on a new camouflage ability. Similarly, Kecleon's Pokedex entry in Pokemon Sapphire says, Kecleon alters its body coloration to blend in with its surroundings, allowing it to sneak up on its prey unnoticed. Then it lashes out with its long and stretchy tongue to instantly ensnare the unsuspecting target. As you can see, this fighting style is far more in line with the modern Tsuyu instead of Toru. Tokoyami's Dark Shadow quirk is a manifestation of a shadow monster within himself. So what does Marshadow have to do with that? Well, obviously Marshadow has to do with shadows, as the name implies, but it's even more similar to Dark Shadow than just that. When you check Marshadow's Pokemon Moon Pokedex entry, it says, able to conceal itself in shadows. It never appears before humans, so its very existence was stuff of myth. This is very similar to Dark Shadow, who only reveals himself when Tokoyami summons him, a Pokemon and a quirk that draw their power from hiding in the shadows. I can see no better fit for Tokoyami. Now, Pichu may seem like a mean choice for Kaminari, but I do believe that one day he'll become a Raichu. I really do. However, as of now, the use of his quirk, Static Buildup, is developing. He causes himself to short circuit when he goes all out. The fact that his body can store up electricity is also like the Pikachu evolution line storing electricity in their cheeks. Then, take this Pokedex entry from Pokemon Emerald that says, it is still inept at retaining electricity. When it is startled, it discharges power accidentally. It gets better at holding power as it grows older. The last line is extremely important here because, as I said earlier, I have high hopes for Kaminari to get better over time and become a great hero. Sero was actually fairly hard to pick a Pokemon for. There's not really a tape Pokemon, so I decided to use Sero's inspiration as an inspiration for this choice. For those who don't know, Sero is heavily inspired by Spider-Man, as the slinging of the tape is his version of slinging webs. So I chose Ariados for this pick due to the spider influence, as well as the fact that Ariados' Pokedex entries constantly talk about its webs, like this one from Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, which says, Ariados' feet are tipped with tiny hooked claws that enable it to scuttle on ceilings and vertical walls. This Pokemon constricts the foe with thin and strong silk webbing. With that, I think I've covered this Pokemon well enough. For Moneta, I need a sticky Pokemon, and while there are a lot of acidic and slimy Pokemon, there really aren't that many that are sticky. Luckily, Octillery exists and is seemingly perfect. Octillery has those big, round, ball-like suction cups on it that are very reminiscent to Moneta's pop-off quirk. If we go to Octillery's Pokedex entry in Pokemon Gold, it says, it traps enemies with its suction-cupped tentacles, then smashes them with its rock-hard head. I think that just doubles down on my explanation for this Pokemon. We spoke about Toru briefly when discussing Kecleon and Suyu, and now it's time to give Toru a Pokemon that can truly turn invisible. Duskull. This is entirely to do with Toru's quirk, since there isn't too much to work off of otherwise. For those who are confused, Duskull can actually turn invisible, as stated in this Pokedex entry in Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, which says, making itself invisible, it silently sneaks up to prey. It has the ability to slip through thick walls. Obviously, the first half of that is more important than the second, as Toru uses her invisibility to sneak up on and defeat her opponents. This doesn't cover her special attack, Light Refraction, but I think it's as close of a match as we're going to get. Noivern is one of the few truly sound-based Pokemon. Narrowing down that list to just Noivern came down to one key factor: Jiro's Heartbeat Fuzz. This super move uses Jiro's amplification equipment to power up her quirk further, giving her the ability to shatter even the ground. Similarly, in Pokemon Ultra Moon, Noivern's Pokedex entry says, this hot-blooded Pokemon attacks anything it sees with ultrasonic waves that can crush boulders, which I think perfectly suits the super move of Jiro. Machamp is obviously a Pokemon with many arms, and Shoji is a hero with many arms. It's pretty straightforward if I'm being honest. There isn't a Pokemon that I can think of that's known for growing extra appendages, so what I went for was a Pokemon with multiple arms and a pretty high level of physical strength. Both things that Shoji is known for in one way or another. This is pretty much the reasoning for Machamp. Apologies if you were hoping for something a bit deeper here. If you have a better choice for him, please feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Sato's quirk Sugar Rush is fairly interesting. For every 10 grams of sugar Sato ingests, he gets 5 times more powerful for 3 minutes. The more sugar ingested, the longer this effect lasts. However, there is a cost. The more sugar ingested, the more his cognitive function dips until he has a crash and passes out. Snorlax is known for eating a lot of stuff, and in its Pokemon Platinum Pokedex entry, we're told when its belly is full, it becomes too lethargic to even lift a finger, so it is safe to bounce on its belly. This lethargic state is actually the most similar thing we have to Sugar Rush's drawback, and add in Snorlax's high attack stat, and we have a great fit for Sato's Pokemon. Ojiro has the most obvious choice for his Pokemon. Infernape is without a doubt the best choice here, as Pokemon like Primeape have no tail, which is what Ojiro's entire power is based upon. Infernape also has this Pokedex entry from Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It tosses its enemies around with agility. It uses all its limbs to fight in its own unique style. This is very similar to Ojiro's tail martial arts, in which he incorporates all of his limbs to perform intricate combinations and strikes. For our last 3 Pokemon, they are extremely basic, unfortunately. Since all Pokemon can seemingly speak to each other, Koda is kind of hard to pick for. But Neri was my choice here simply because Koda has a pet rabbit, and that's as good of a connection as I could manage to come up with. I would have gone with Mind Control Pokemon, but they are generally categorized as sinister, so that just feels unfitting for Koda. Second to last, we have Ashido with Muck. Ashido has an extremely interesting yet basic to understand quirk: she spits acid. Muck is a giant pile of acid and toxic waste. Together, they just make sense. It's really not any deeper than that. Last but not least, we have Aoyama with his naval laser. He needs the bling-tastic Starmie to represent him. They even have the same central core that their power is derived from, and even when Starmie is shown to attack, it does so with the gem in its center, much like Aoyama's naval laser. With that, we have Class 1A as Pokemon. Thanks for watching! Leave your suggestions for video topics in the comments down below, and let me know what you thought about this one. If you liked the video, hit that like button, and if you really want to support me, consider becoming a member. I'll see you guys next week, so until then, peace!